Welcome to the Thornton Review.
The show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us.
Commissioner Kohler ran for office for the first time in 2020 after serving in the Navy for 33 years. His career started in Pensacola in 1988 as a hospital corpsman working at the Navy Hospital, and it concluded as the Executive Officer of Navy Medicine Operational Training Command on board NAS Pensacola. His career spanned 13 pay grades from E1 to 06, and he is proud to be called a Mustang for his enlisted time. Kohler received his associate's degree in nursing from Pensacola Junior College and his master's degree from the University of West Florida in 2004. A list of his volunteer activities includes coordinating a health excellence symposium for the greater Pensacola area, vice chair of the Escambia County Republican Party, and race director for Rock and Fly Half Marathon and 5K, which brought in over $230,000 for the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. Mike has served on the Escambia County Health Facilities Authority since 2002. The authority has donated $1.5 million to local nonprofits and managed $1.4 billion in funds for the county. Kohler's goal is to have an ethical government that the people can trust. Being a registered nurse for over 30 years, he believes he has the skill set to change the direction of the Board of County Commissioners from continually being perceived as negative. He is a persistent optimist with a determination that Escambia County needs at this time. Kohler and his wife are proud to call Pensacola their home. They are both committed to improving the health and well-being of children. They have coordinated or supported numerous road races and triathlons over the last 20 years. They have completed a marathon in all 50 states together. They have 3 grandchildren and now reside with a pug named Jackson. Hi, I'm Pueschel Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. Our guest on today's show is Commissioner Mike Kohler, Escambia County Commission District 2. So Mike, it's great to have you on the show. You've been on a couple times and I'm very interested to hear a recap of what's happened through the year. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you, Pueschel. Obviously, this is the third time I've shared some comments about what's going on in the county, and obviously I just took over as the chair for the Board of County Commissioners, which is a huge honor. And we'll talk about several things over the next little bit of time of what's going on in the county, and hopefully the listeners will learn a little bit about what's going on in their local government.
Absolutely. It's important to stay up to date on what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion with Commissioner Kohler and some of the issues going on in Escambia County. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Welcome back. So, Mike, I know a lot has been going on. In the county, all over the county. It's growing. There's a lot of growth, the new subdivisions, especially like out in the Beulah area and Cantonment and the 9 Mile Road area. I'd like to talk about OLF8 and some updates on what's going on. There was a master plan, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still in place? Like, what's going on with it?
So let's just start back a little bit historically. So since I've been on the commission's been looking for different offers for that property. It's a little over 500 acres. As you may or may not know, Navy Federal was part of that. The county sold that to Navy Federal years ago for about $4 million. So the property that's the outline field, which was from the Navy, has been on the market now for a few years, and we've had 3 active bids right now. And all of them are very good. 2 of them are local with outside support, and I'll talk a little bit about that one. One's Tri-West. They're a local firm. Catalyst is healthcare, and then they have a group out of Montgomery, Alabama, the Wilson organization. And then you have Fred Hemmer's group, which they're going by Beulah Center for the project out there, and they brought in a large developer called Metro. And then there's a third individual that's competing that put a bid in. His name's Ryan Bell, and he wants to, his bid, they were going to call it Beulah Ranch. Mm-hmm. So we have three good bids. I think 2 of them are a little stronger than the other. We're at an impasse. There's a few things that we need to make sure happen. The intent of the master plan has to be as closely matched as it can. And I think the people in Beulah will pretty much demand that. Mm-hmm. There may have to be some small changes, and those changes would be like anything else. They'd have to go to the planning board through developmental services, and the board would have to approve that so that we would agree or disagree to make it so it would try to fall within the master plan. So some of that may have to happen. Go ahead, S.
Okay, so we've got 500 acres that's for sale.
Yeah.
We've got 3 bids in. Can you explain the master plan? Like, what is the master plan for that?
Okay, so some of it's going to have development on it, right? So you have Pensacola.
Houses.
Yeah, well, some will have jobs, that was part of it, and then some of it will be residential and commercial. So it's split up right now that what they want to do on the 270 acres of it, they want to put in, that's the job area, right? And then on the lower end of that would be residential property, and it's going to be like a town center feel. So
what's it zoned now? Rural? How is that area zoned?
Well, I think it's zoned residential and commercial.
Okay.
So, because the 270 acres out there, but it used to be agriculture, so it's no longer agriculture. Okay. So right now, the way they have light industrial jobs on the north end. South end is what they want to do now is put in some of the residential, and then on 9 Mile it looks like they have some commercial front there as well.
Is the infrastructure already in place for all of that?
So that's part of the infrastructure will be built as they're developing the property.
Like widening the roads, making sure CUA has.
That's one of the things that will have to be.
So the land. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited about hearing about this.
It's a big deal for the Escambia County.
Yeah. So currently that 500 acres is unimproved. There's no electricity or water going to it, right?
No, it's
going to. Obviously, in other words, it's just barren land because it originally was an air landing field.
There's an air landing field out there, and then 4-H had some of the land out there, and now it's going to be turned into a town center eventually. Mm-hmm. But okay, let's go back to the question you just said about the infrastructure. So there's a couple. If you've been watching what went through the state and the interchange, Frank Reeder Road, if they use that would have to be widened. There's some discussion on if that's the right approach. That's still to be determined. Some folks think since 9 Mile's already a 4-lane road that maybe you could use that as an inlet off of 9 Mile for some of the light industrial, because there's some houses on that Frank Reeder Road on the back side of there. So some of the folks in Beulah are very concerned about the traffic patterns around there, depending on what kind of commercial comes in. You've probably heard several of them. There was I think I could say this now, PDC had got a bid for an Amazon warehouse, and the folks did not want an Amazon warehouse out there. So I think that's pretty much dead. But some of the stuff they want to put out there would be great for jobs, you know. But let's go back to the bids. So we have 3 different prices that have come in. One for $40 million, one for $42.5 million, and then at the last meeting that went very late was $43.5. Now those, I don't think any of those have had modified contracts yet, but that's what was said at the meeting. There's some other things that need to be discussed. Obviously, the initial deposit, the monthly payments after we go in, what kind of jobs will be there, the time frame for the development after we go in. All that will have to be worked out in the contract. So it's not just about the price. It's about the price, the development, how we can work with PEDC. PEDC would like the county to sell them or give them the northern part. I don't know if there's enough votes on the board for that. I think.
Now, what's PDC? I'm sorry.
Pensacola Escambia Development Committee.
Okay, gotcha.
So they work with Florida West, and we pay them. Their whole function is to try to bring economic development into Escambia County. And Commissioner Barry, and now Commissioner Stroberger serve on that committee.
Okay.
So this is gonna come up at the next meeting on the 9th again, and we may or may not get to an agreement with one of these bidders to move forward. But we're moving forward. It's been going on the whole time I've been a commissioner. I get the feeling that the other commissioners want to move forward with this, but we'll still have to go through the legal process, you know, to get to the final deal.
How do you get the bidders? Like, is it advertised and they
Oh
call
yes.
you?
So originally, what happened? There was an RFP that went out back in August before I was even installed, and then when I got installed, we've had, oh man, I want to say at least 13 bids. I may be off 1 or 2, but we went through Thornton first. And then we had another company that fell through, and then Fred Hammer's group has been in for a while, and then obviously this Ryan Bell, and then we've had, now some of these folks have continued to bid along the way, changed their bids, and we've just never got to a deal. But I think we're getting close to a deal. But I think we've had at least 13 bids. I'd have to go back and look. We've had several, so we just haven't been able to seal the deal with the requirements that meet the DPZ and what the county wants with the developer.
Okay, so it looks like it.
I think we're getting close.
Yeah,
I do,
it's
but
hopefully going to be one of these 3.
I think it's going to be one of 2 of them. I really do.
And they know what the master plan is, and they agree,
Yes.
they agree to it. Is there anything legally holding them to the master plan after they buy the land?
Well, that's a good question. So yes, when they buy that, they've had the DPZ. So just like when you want to develop a property, they're going to have to put that plan through the Developmental Service Planning Board, and they know what the DPZ is. So they're going to kind of hold them to that plan.
So it's the planning board that's
that would be
for making
responsible.
sure.
And if there's a change, then that would go through the planning board with a recommendation and come to the commission for a vote to accept or deny that request.
Is there any, I know Kevin Adams would want to know, is there any talk of putting a school out there?
Well, there was,
Yeah.
but now I was told that the school board had bought some property out there, so I don't think that's
okay.
no longer an issue down the road. Paul had told me that. I'm not exactly sure where they bought, so that had come up, but I think the school board has bought some property to build a school on, so I'm not sure that will need to be on that property.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you for the update on that.
Yeah, it's good. It's exciting. I know the people in Beulah are excited about it. Everyone's going to have to give a little though. You know, this is a huge project. It's a $40+ million project for the county. We're going to have some mild modifications, I think, just in the infrastructure and what
Who's
the
going to pay for the infrastructure? Are there going to be impact fees on top of what they're buying it for?
So the infrastructure, with the amount of money that we're getting from the price, the sale, yeah, we would be able to do that. Now, Frank Reeder would be very costly. So looking at that, that's still under negotiation in the contract. So who's going to develop what and who will be responsible for certain things.
So we've got a piece of land, 500 acres, that's
540,
paid for. The county isn't paying anything for it. It's just sitting there doing nothing.
But we're not earning anything on it.
Exactly. So what is this 42 million minus? So you're not going to get 42 million back into the coffers. It's going to be.
We paid about 18 million plus. We got four, if I remember correctly. I wasn't on the board. I think the county sold to Navy Federal for about 4.4. I may be off, but it was over 4 million.
How many acres did they get?
I don't know off the top of my head, Michelle, because that happened before I was there. But you've been out there.
Big.
It's big. And so we're underwater 14 million, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So the county's invested in that. So
For the infrastructure?
no, that we paid for the property, right? For all of 8. So say it's 18 million plus. Got 4 plus from Navy Federal, so we're under 14 million. That so if we sell it for 42, build it, the county's still making money plus whatever we get in the millage tax from commercial and residential that goes on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So it would definitely make a lot of money for the county.
Because there's a lot of math involved. Like, do you know how much the infrastructure was for Navy Federal, and didn't the county pay 100%?
I don't know that. If I would have known that question, I would ask Wes and some of them before. I just don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yes, there will be some infrastructure cost, absolutely, and I've talked to the county administrator about this, and there will be some cost. But let's say we sell it for 43 million. Okay, that's one of the bids, 43 now. So you subtract that 14 million, you're 29 million. That we would be we're not going to put $29 million in infrastructure.
No.
So we're going in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
right now. So that's a good thing. I think these developers know that they're going to probably do well out there. So that's why it's competitive right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure we get the right person or company that'll do right by Beulah. So I think it's very exciting. I was part of the Baptist Hospital on the health authority when they came through and asked for the conduit bonds, and now when I go in there, I'm so proud of that hospital, and I see that, and it'll change healthcare for Escambia County for 30, 40, 50 years. So these kind of huge projects are legacy projects that are changing our community.
Right.
And so this will be one that hopefully 5 years from now we'll look back and see, wow, the commission really did something right here.
Good. I hope so.
I hope so too. I think our due diligence has been there almost excessively.
Yeah.
So.
I think a lot of people are just concerned with the growth of the area. Beulah has exploded. I mean, I'm from Pensacola. I grew up in Cantonment, and it's like a different town now because it's so grown
That
up
is
with
the question.
subdivisions. There's no land left anywhere.
That's the problem each one of us get. Do you want affordable housing? Do you want growth? 1,000 people are moving to Florida today. People are wanting to come here. We have to have some responsible growth. That's the thing.
Right, it's got to be responsible. This is an explosion. It seems like an absolute explosion.
It's across the state. When I was at Florida Association of Counties, almost not every county, but a lot of the counties are dealing with this, and we're one of the larger counties in the state out of 67, believe it or not. Escambia is I'd say in the middle upper in the size of the counties. When you look at 330,000 people, the average town, and it was funny in Florida it was like 6,000 people.
Right.
So when you look at our size of our county and what we got going on, it's still very affordable for a lot of people to move here. And we have a lot of great amenities here, and it's like, I know people don't like growth. I inherited a massive amount of growth along Gulf Beach Highway out to Perdido, and then you look at Gulf Beach Highway that has not been expanded in 30 years.
Right.
And that whole process in itself, we maybe could talk about that later. We have to go through the transportation planning organization, and these projects are years out, right? And so when you got specialized districts, and we sit on a board with every commissioner in Escambia, every commissioner in Santa Rosa, representation from the municipalities, and they're all fighting for state road projects in their area.
We need it the most.
Well, everyone thinks
Definitely.
that. So, and then with the base.
I mean, just drive down there.
And you could I could get fired or not reelected tomorrow, and the next commissioner would be in the exact same boat. And we're working there. When Commissioner Burgash was on the TPO, he worked, and I supported him on the northern end of Sorrento the bridge down to Sorrento Road. That's going to get done first. The rest of Gulf Beach Highway, we have a little bit of expansion work that will happen from Old Gulf Beach Highway up to Sorrento that Representative Andrade put in. It was a little under $9 million. But that whole road, they're telling me, is estimated to be over $200 million project from Navy Boulevard to that bridge. So it'll probably get broken up into 3 different sections now. The first will be from Sorrento out to Theobar's Bridge. We'll have a little bit of modifications in the...
Oh, would they have to redo the bridge then too?
They're not. I don't think the bridge is not in this, so it's on the east side of that.
Bottleneck to the bridge.
Yeah, and then we'll probably
We'll worry about that in 20
yeah.
years.
It's a big project though. It needs to happen because the base wants it to happen. The traffic patterns are pretty rough in the afternoon. We've had several deaths on that road. And it should have been done. District 2 has not had a commissioner around for a long time that could lobby for that. I know we're going to talk about term limits. This is one of the things we need. Everyone doesn't have term limits. You get into situations where certain projects get directed in certain ways. It's just natural politics. I'm not saying anyone did anything unethical. It's the way it is in special-based districts.
Right, I get it.
So
let's talk about the return of the committee of the whole.
yeah. So from my standpoint, I never had that when the whole time I was, last 2 years been on the board, and people kept asking. And for me, I think having those discussions where you get educated by the subject matter experts brings some light to the commissioner. So there's a decision space to basically have most of the facts before we get on the dais at the evening meeting. So it was a huge, I thought, the morning meeting on OLF 8, which we had the discussion. We're going to discuss it on the next meeting on the 9th, how we want to do it. And do we want commissioners to have two a year where they say, I want to talk about the Base Center, or I want to brief by the Marine Advisory Committee, or can some of the subcommittees tell us what's going on, or what ordinance reform? There's a bazillion things we could talk about. So I'm going to propose.
And you bring the professionals in to talk
yes.
about it during the meetings.
And then we can talk because it's in the sunshine, right?
Yes.
And then we'll have a better knowledge of, there's so much we could talk about.
That's what ECUA does.
Oh, they have cows as well?
I'm not sure, but they have the project directors come in and just give a presentation on what they plan to do.
Yeah, and then we can ask questions, and it makes it easier. So when we get to the funding and approval stuff, that we're making decisions with the most amount of knowledge. And so I was a huge supporter of that. I know it takes a little bit more time for commissioners to do that meeting, but I think the first one went well. We'll hash out at the next meeting how we're going to do it and go from there. But yeah, I'm glad we brought it back.
So I want to talk about the Base Center next, but we're going to take a commercial break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Commissioner Kohler on Escambia County. The Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with the purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Mike Kohler, Escambia County Commission, District 2. There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Welcome back. So Mike, can we talk about TPO, and can you explain the difference between funding from county roads and state roads?
Sure. So the state, through the Transportation Planning Organization, we make recommendations to what roads we're going to do that are state roads that we want improved, and that has to be voted on at the TPO and get submitted, and they're racked and stacked. County roads, for example, Old Quarryville Road, each commissioner gets a certain amount of dollars, about $5 million a year, to do roads in their district.
Okay.
And so engineering comes out and they'll say, hey, these are the roads we think need to be done based on the wear and tear. We need a lot more road work, honestly, but there's a couple issues. Obviously, we only have so much funding. The second thing is to get in the workforce to do the roads, because there's a lot of them we have to do. So there's two issues. But one of the successes I'm very proud of, Old Quarryville Road, when I came in, I went to sit down with Joy Blackman and them, was just a terror. It was potholes. It needed resurfaced so bad. And they took about $1 million out of my budget and they resurfaced that road. And I've got nothing but compliments on that road. That's resurfacing that. And then I'm doing several roads up on around Fairfield this year, south of that area. In Myrtle Grove, we're going to resurface several roads in that area. I don't remember all the names, but it's between Fairfield, Jackson, and that area. It's heading north.
I wasn't expecting this to come up, but what, in my brain, what has any research ever been done that you know of on permeable asphalt for roads and sidewalks and parking lots? Because the reason I ask this is because it would help with the flooding issue if we replaced everything with permeable. And Old Bridge Road out in Cantonment,
Yeah.
they've repaved it with non-permeable since then, but 25-ish years ago, that it was when it was first paved, because it was a dirt road, they paved it with permeable road material. You could take a bucket of water and pour it onto the road,
The
and
surface,
it would just and it would just seep through. It wouldn't run off. It would seep through.
That's an interesting question. So it's funny you brought this up. I was at one of the Florida Association County conferences, and they were talking about this.
We have to go to it. I'm glad you said that.
And I was learning about it. I'm not an engineer, but it made sense that from the stormwater drainage aspect.
Yes, absolutely.
As far as asking if it's been studied in Escambia County, I doubt that. I don't know, but I doubt it.
How could we go about getting a study going on about the permeable road surface?
I'll ask Joy Black. I'd have to ask engineering.
Yeah.
That's the first step, and then learn
It
a little
would
bit more.
solve-
I don't know the cost, so it could be cost prohibitive, but we'd have to find all that out.
It would be cheaper than having flooding issues. And it
Right.
would solve if all of our roads, sidewalks, and parking lots were permeable material, and I'm not saying that could possibly happen overnight. I mean, it would take years and years and years. But what's happening is we're clear cutting.
Yeah.
You see all of the
I know.
subdivisions and growth.
Right.
We are literally clear cutting the land and paving it over. And it's not just Escambia County, it's everywhere. It's north of us.
Oh, yeah.
That's when the flooding issues start, is north of us. And the rainwater, it can be raining really, really hard, up north of us, and then the it's like a flash flood.
Right.
The water starts coming down and it's running over pavement. If it was running over permeable parking lots, roads, and sidewalks,
Yeah, the absorption factor would be much better.
have the flooding issue that we
You
have.
never, I'm not saying never, but what I would obviously do, I'd say what roads flood the most, and you'd obviously start with those, right?
Sure.
And then we'd look at the cost. But you know what? I have a meeting on the 6th with engineering. I'll just ask them and see what
Please do.
yeah.
Yeah.
I meet with engineering once a month just to talk about the projects in District 2 and what we're doing from stormwater drainage to sidewalks to road resurfacing. So I get a monthly report on what's going on in District 2 just on roads, resurfacing, and sidewalks.
Yeah. I think as we build new roads, parking lots, and sidewalks, they should be permeable. And as we replace or patch the existing ones, we should do it with permeable.
Yeah,
Material.
only
it will
the
eventually
cost
replace.
is the thing that you will have to find out, because I just don't know the cost. I agree with you in spirit, absolutely, it's the right thing to do. It just, I don't know what the cost is, and that's what I need to ask, and I will.
We need to find out, because we need to start pushing for that.
Oh no, and stormwater drainage is a huge issue. I mean, I hear about it from my constituents all the time. We're doing massive amounts of stormwater drainage in District 2. I could tell you multiple projects that are going on to improve stormwater drainage. But I mean, we got millions and millions of dollars of stormwater drainage projects going on right now.
So the way I understand it is the stormwater drainage goes into the pipes, you know, under our roads, under our city, under our county, and it all goes out to the bay. It exits into the bay, and you can go down to the pier and look down, and you can see where it comes out. It's giant pipes above
Big
the
pipes.
water, and but when there's storm surge, when there's heavy rain on this side and there's storm surge on that side, and the bay rises above those pipes, there's no water going out. There's water coming in. And I've actually seen up here around downtown, around this Long Hollow area, I've seen water actually coming out of the storm drainage pipes.
Well, I've seen that on the news. They've had that, and then they've had some waste that's popped up because it's backed up. I know ECU's had that a couple times, and got some kind of bad press, obviously, because no one wants waste coming up in their neighborhood. But the stormwater drainage. So can we talk about that for just a second?
Absolutely.
So,
all day.
Yeah. Well, and I know Chris Kirby's very active in that. He comes to every meeting, but there's some good points in that. So, for example, on Perdido Estates, we got an MSB, which no one wants to pay an extra tax, but the county is basically restructuring their whole drainage system in there to improve the drainage. Just that's been going on 18 years, and the board voted for that. That was a huge success for that. There's over 300 houses in that neighborhood, and that's off Bower and basically Gold Beach Highway off that road there. And Beach Haven, we got a $21 million septic to sewer and stormwater drainage going on. Bio Grande, we got a $4.7 million. These projects are currently going on. In Bio Grande, 4.7. At the inlet at Sunset and Gold Beach Highway, we have some broken pipes in there. We got a $1.5 million stormwater drainage project going on. On Palmetto, we got another $1 million stormwater drainage that each commissioner got some stormwater drainage out of the ARPA funds. Great. So these were additional stormwater drainage projects that's going on. So and we finished up, Commissioner Underhill deserves the majority of the credit, but was the Lake Charlene stormwater drain project that finished on my watch, but he was instrumental in moving that forward. And that's been a huge success for Lake Charlene. That dumps into Jones Swamp, and as you know, we've had a few pretty hefty storms, and they haven't flooded. So that community is very happy. So we're making some progress. I know Dee that lives off of Fairfield, her area, we did some minor improvements, but that area still floods quite a bit. But I will tell you, the county as a whole, since I've been there, has taken stormwater drainage extremely serious, and I think we've done more stormwater drainage projects in the last 2 years than any time in history. And that mostly was probably related to the ARPA funds that we got from the federal government.
Thank you for that. So also just a little side note, I don't think that retention ponds are the answer.
Well, they're a stopgap and sometimes fail if they're not maintained.
Yeah. They fail. And that's what happened in 2014. We had like 8 or 10 retention ponds burst, and that's why all of these areas...
I think we have over 800 storm retention ponds in the county. It's an enormous amount. And those all have to be maintained, right? So you got Public Works, and we get called all the time at my office, hey, this ditch, this stormwater drainage, and then Public Works is good about going out and fixing them. But you're right, it's a lot of management. Lots. So
we could get rid of the stormwater retention ponds and just make all of our roads, sidewalks, and parking lots permeable.
We're probably not going to get rid of those anytime soon, though, for sure. Right. But it looked nicer too. No one wants to look at a stormwater drainage pond, but
everybody says, "Oh, it's beautiful. It's so pretty back there. We should build a park beside it." It's really,
it's a hole in the ground.
Not that pretty.
Yeah, it's a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And most. You wouldn't want to go in your backyard and see a big hole. So I get it. It's our way of dealing with it.
They're full of water.
And I think if you put pumps in them to circulate the water, that adds some amenity to them. But it's all like anything. You can make them look better if there's a desire. But I completely understand what you're saying. And for some, there's a safety issue with kids. I get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Well, it fits, they say.
Yeah,
And
they have to
there's a
put a big
whole
chain link
ordinance
fence
on
around
that.
them.
Like, it's dependent on the grade going into it,
Sure.
if we have to put a fence up or not. So that question comes up a lot. So, but yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
there's like a 6 foot or 8 foot chain link fence around the 5-block pond at Long Hollow at Jordan Street.
Yeah,
And it's huge, it's giant.
I know.
So I guess you can't, and people are prohibited from going in there. I don't know if
Oh yeah, you don't
anybody
want people in
actually
there.
does.
Yeah, they shouldn't be in there unless you're
Because of the
cleaning up.
grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, going down into
So
it.
it's a safety hazard if you don't know what you're doing or you're working for the county. We don't want citizens swimming in them or
No.
playing. Yeah, that's
Fishing in them.
yeah. I wonder if there are fishing in them. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, now that would be an idea. Stock them
Stock 'em with
with fish.
fish, yeah.
And charge people to fish.
Maybe a lot of fertilizer and those fish may
I
not be
know,
worth
yeah.
eating.
Lots of engine oil. From
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to eat any fish out of a stormwater drainage pond, but yeah, it could be fun to catch and release, I guess.
Yeah. So do you want to circle around back to the Base Center? I briefly mentioned it. So what are the plans for the Base Center? I was at the very first concert that ever happened at the Base Center. It was Kiss
Oh yeah.
back in 1988, I think. Or
How old were
probably
you? Like
86.
4?
1986. It was before I was born. No, I'm joking. But that's.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. So the Base Center, as you know, it's kind of outdated, right? It needs to be
I think it was outdated the year it was built.
Maybe.
Because it was built wrong. The walls, from what I heard, were put in backwards somehow, and it echoes in there. So it's not a great venue for loud sound.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what they've had in there the whole time is loud sound and concerts.
Sure.
But
Yeah, the Base Center. Well, I definitely think the commission's going to have to look at that and look at how we're going to improve that. We've got some plans. We know that this is going to have to be a Cal discussion, okay, in the near future, just to figure out what we're going to do there. There's discussions about putting event space in the back so we can bring in more people for,
smaller
conferences and stuff, right,
Sure.
that we're losing to other areas because we don't really have that. There's discussion of doing on the back side of the Base Center, some shopping, restaurants, event center, maybe doing something with the tech park. I actually had a good discussion with the mayor the other day, because it's in city limits even though the county owns it, right? But the tech park maybe expanding over there and even into where the Grand Hotel, bringing that back to life, hopefully.
Oh, that reminds me. Are there any plans at all for the Grand Hotel that you know
Not
of?
currently.
Wow.
I know that
Who owns it?
a lady named Mrs. Hess, and I know the mayor's been in discussions with her,
Okay.
and I don't know where those are and if she wants to sell or where we're at, but I know the city's had some discussions about that property, but I just don't know all the details.
Is it fixable? Is it serviceable? I mean,
Oh, I think anything's fixable. It just depends on how much money you want to put into it.
it depends on the infrastructure,
Yeah.
the walls and the foundation, and
Right, it's gonna, from what I'm being told, it's gonna need an extreme makeover to make it,
safe.
profitable and right again. So the rooms are outdated and some of the things that, for what people want today. So I think there would have to be quite a bit of re-engineering to bring it back to life. But I think I'd love to see it happen personally, because
I would too.
it's, and if they have like a rooftop eatery and bar up there, that'd be nice because it's overlooking the bay. The basement part of it, I actually brought Senator Scott there when I was on the Republican meeting with Dorothy, and we had a Lincoln Day dinner for him there.
Cool.
And we met on the 14th, and it was really nice. So it's had some really good days, and I think
Was that recent?
that was
there-
back in 2011 maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah, that was.
But it was still up and running, and
Yeah.
people staying there, and
Yeah, my family used to stay there when they would come in town to visit and stuff.
Yeah, and they had great views overlooking the bay. So I'd like to see it come back to life. We got hotels going in all over downtown. You got the Tristan coming in, and they're gonna have one down.
Well, The Grand Hotel is just special because you've got the train station right there
Yes.
with all the shops and the restaurants, and that just makes it like a spectacular place to stay. It's like the best place, in my opinion, to stay in Pensacola if you're going to be in Pensacola,
I
as
think so
opposed to on
too.
the beach. Yeah,
You're right. I agree.
just
So
because of the train station, because of the historical significance of the train station.
I agree 100%. I think that was a neat part of it, especially if we get the train. But coming back through here, that'd be awesome.
Oh, I want to talk about that too.
Okay, well, we can get to that in a minute. But yeah, I think so. The Bay Center, we're going to have a cow, and obviously TDC is going to have to, to share with us how much they're going to put into it. And then I don't know, we may have to bond out, depending on the cost of what we would do to it. But I think we should do it right. I don't want to do, if we're going to do something, invest, I want to do it right. So it's the future of the city and the county, and something that the citizens can look forward for the next 20, 30 years and say, we did it the right way, and it came back to life. And we'll see where we end up. But, the hockey's done pretty well there. Yeah. But the venue in itself, we're not making the money that we would like to. And the argument is that, and then whoever we use as the vendor, if it's ASM or some other one, I think we got to renegotiate that deal so it's a little bit more favorable to the county. So that's all got to be played out. But the talks are going to start here shortly, and we'll see where we end up.
I'm just going to throw this in there. I love the interstate ramp wrapping around it up to
Why is that?
Brewery Street, because I use it sometimes.
Oh,
and it's just
okay.
neat.
Yeah,
It's very convenient to
Yeah.
get to that part of town if you have to go that way. And I understand, I think the thinking is that it's rarely used, it's not heavily trafficked. But when you need to go that way, it's just very convenient to have there.
Yeah, I've heard a couple options about changing that structure. Nothing's been set. We're in the developmental phase, so that'll come out in the public opinion. We'll take the inputs on that and see where we end up. We may not have to do that. I don't know. Let's see what they come up with design.
So I saw on the news or online the other day that they are taking applications for the Children's Trust.
Yeah, we've been keep getting applications, and then they get sent to the governor, and the governor gets to decide.
Okay.
The Children's Trust, they got a new good director. Her name's Lindsay Cannon. I don't know how much you know. The board of county commissioners voted to take some of the. We're entitled by statute to get money out of the trust for our CRAs. Okay. So when I reviewed the Children's Trust, I felt like it was disproportionate to I don't think you can look at the programs that they fund. It's disproportionate to projects in the city versus the county. So I didn't have a problem. It's only about 4 to 5% of what the trust brings in would go into the CRAs.
What are CRAs?
Community Redevelopment Agencies. So these are some of the lower income neighborhoods in our community where we could create sidewalks and infrastructure for the Children's Trust. Now they had some issues with that. I find it like those are the communities we should be trying to help the most. So, I know that the trust didn't like it, but the board voted unanimously. And so we're getting a small amount of money that will go into the CRAs, and hopefully we don't get into any legal situation with them on this, because I think we're on high ground according to our legal. But the trust has done they're doing some good things, some things I wish they would improve, and I've shared this with Lindsay Cannon. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, but they did recently invest in the Naval Flight Academy for several. They'll take kids from all over the county that will go out to the Naval Flight Academy and basically, basically go out there for a week and do pretty much like STEM training, and maybe they'll want to go in the Navy or who knows what it'll stimulate. But that's something that they recently voted on and approved for middle school kids and high school kids in the county. So that was good.
Yeah.
And so I know Admiral Kozak put a
positive.
plan together with Sterling and presented that. And so I'm happy that they did that. So, and I don't know who the governor's going to appoint, but we've had several people that come up, and normally the board is just to recommend them all to go to the governor for who that he would like to select. I don't think we've turned down anyone that's applied. And no one, well, I mean, obviously, if you had certain things in your record, we wouldn't approve that. But yeah, everyone's been fine that's applied so far.
So do county commissioners have term limits?
Well, that's funny. So that's a big issue for the Florida Association of Counties. So if you're a charter county, you can determine if you want term limits in your county.
Okay.
The state has not regulated that. I think, Representative Salzman brought that up last session and it failed. And there's a Senator Inglesi, I think I may be saying his wrong, he's really a proponent of term limits. 67% of the state is under term limits, either 8 or 12 years.
Okay.
My problem.
Because they're charter counties?
Yes. But so you either, some have 8, some have 12.
Yeah.
I'm for term limits, but I want them for everybody. Because here's the problem. And the voters need to know, if we pass term limits, especially if they're 8, the state of Florida will never have representation at the National Association of Counties. They'll never have a board member at 8-year term limits. 12 years maybe, but we will, and that maybe not.
I like 12 years.
I do too, and I'll tell you, I've had to change of heart for them. I want 12 years for everyone, and I'll tell you why. The more I've been involved with FAC, and I'm the District 1 representative for the 4 counties on the Florida Association of Counties, and I'm on 4 different committees. The small counties, when you listen to the other counties, and we have a lot of small counties, believe it or not, in the state of Florida, some of them don't really have a lot of people that apply. It's hard to believe, but when you got 30,000 citizens, and the pay is based on the amount of citizens in the county. So
nobody wants the job.
Right.
It's like a volunteer job.
Yes. And so when you start hearing those kind of, everyone says it's about public service, but there's not that many people that are going to work for $24,000 a year unless you're retired or something. They're just not going to do it. So they can't do it, right?
This is a hobby job.
Yeah. So
that's like something I would do.
Well, there are people that want to do it, but are you getting the best people?
Right.
And that's the thing. Do you want to get the best people that are going to really serve the citizens?
Or are you just getting the retired guy that already that's just doing it for pocket change and doesn't really care about.
Well, I'm a retired guy that cares, but I know what you're saying.
I'm not saying you at all.
But I know what you're saying. You can get people that just
in a small town.
Yeah,
the guy already owns the town. He may as well be on the county commission
and influence the development and stuff. So there's pros and cons, but term limits. I don't know if Salzman's going to bring them back or not. I know
somebody will. I'm sure.
I'm telling you, they're the Florida Association of Counties. I'm like one of the oddballs in there that bring it up.
Actually wants it.
I think it's probably. I think it's like they don't want them. They don't want them at all. And out of the 40, it comes up at every one of our board meetings. There's probably maybe 20-25% that are in favor of it, and 70 to 80 that's not.
Yeah.
So it's overwhelming against, even though I'm for them. So. I think we need to listen to both sides, and as long as they're with everyone, and they're fair, and 12 years I think can meet the small county. I'm definitely for that.
Yeah.
It's hard to run as a politician and say you're against them because the public wants them. But I think we need to have the conversation more with the public about what will affect it when you do have term limits. And some of the things.
Is it like the elected officials don't want them, but the public does want them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the public, it's close to 78%. When they passed for the legislature years ago, I think it was 1996. I could be wrong on the year. It passed in the state of Florida by over 70%. So the people wanted them. Yeah. But then there's this argument that that the staff run Tallahassee more than the legislators do. Legislators do.
Yeah.
So. I just think we need to have a more open conversation so people understand both sides. I'm for term limits, like I said. I think 12 years is the right amount, and I want them for everybody. And I want them for federal too. I would like to see 2 6-year terms for U.S. senators. 6 2-year terms for Congress, and 6-year or the same for everyone in the state level.
2-year terms.
Oh, I don't like
them.
them.
That's a lot of campaigning.
I think it's ridiculous. I'd rather see that go to 4 years, but here's because all they do is they get
They're
down one.
They're going to get reelected anyway, and you know that. I mean, most of the time.
Yeah.
So just give them 4 years.
I actually
give them 8 years.
I actually think the 2-year thing is now with the way lobbying and having to fundraise has really made politics worse. If it 4 years, you can
Okay.
kind of be independent, and you're not. You can be your own person. At 2 years, you got to keep.
PACs have ruined it.
But they have, and you know, look at Landrade and Salzman. They raise over $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 for a $29,000 a year job. I mean, it's and every state rep does that, but it's just like that doesn't even make sense.
Our state reps 2 years or 4
2 years, and the
That's-
state senators
that's
are
torture.
4. Yeah, but I mean, so then you're saying, is that representative government, or is that, you know, I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but you wonder if the influence by all the PACs is influencing, and I think most voters would say it is affecting the decision process of how affects the regular citizen. And so I'm with you. I think 4 years would be better. I don't think it's going to happen. I think term limits at 12 would be better. But we got a lot. We're going to have a lot more discussion, because I don't think we've had those conversations where people look at the whole spectrum of the pros and cons.
I'd like to look at how long it's been 2 years. I mean, has it been 2 years since
Oh.
the very beginning? You know,
It has, and the same with Congress.
Uh-huh.
So Congress
This
is
has
always,
always
yes,
been
it's always
2
been 2 years.
So yeah, I'd have to look at that harder. Like if the decision was up to me, I wouldn't just jump on the decision to make
Yeah.
it 4 years. I'd have to look at the history and
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
yeah.
Only reason I would be for it is the amount of money that has to be raised to fundraise. That's the problem I don't
Well,
like
I would
about
do
it.
away with PACs if it was up to me. I'd say no more PACs. It's got to be everything's grassroots.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting concept. But then you get people that, you know, either have money that can run, and those that don't, that can't. You know, sometimes you get that because PACs sometimes get behind candidates that aren't as well financed.
Right.
So you get it's
yeah.
all of it has pros and cons. You
You're
know.
right. Yeah.
So if you only want wealthy people in office, then you know.
Then it's grassroots. Okay, we'll scratch that idea.
Well, I mean, if you're a great politician and can get, like, you know, the grassroots peoples to vote for you, but if not, you know, you're going to have people that have a lot of money that are running for office, and they're going to decide the policy.
So let's talk a little about the homeless bill. that
Oh yeah,
passed.
1365 that the state passed.
So there's a road on Pace Boulevard, or
Mhm.
maybe it's Highway 29, where Pace kind of cuts off. There was a homeless camp up in there.
Oh yeah,
If you go up Highway 29,
I know which one
if
you're
you're
talking
going
about.
north, and it's on
Beggs
the road.
Lane, I think is
Beggs,
what you're talking
right.
about. Yeah,
So I was driving by there the day that they kind of flushed it out,
sure.
and there were just people all up and down Highway 29. You know, they're displaced, they're
Yeah.
dispersed out into the wild, I guess. And where are they going? Where did they go?
Well, the homeless situation is becoming a big problem. And you got to look at that in the totality of the situation too. I think everyone wants to help homeless, but you can't turn neighborhoods into landfills.
And you can't help them by enabling them.
Amen.
Especially the drug addicts and the alcoholics
right.
that are homeless because they're drug addicts and alcoholics. It's not because they can't get a job, or it's not because their house burned down. It's not because of any natural disaster. It's not because they're sick or disabled. It's because they're on drugs.
I
and
think
they
that
choose that lifestyle.
I agree. I think some of the situation is what the homeless have got themselves in a predicament. If they were to clean up their environment, and they were, you know, and they a lot of the things, but these things turn into toxic waste zones and
Yeah.
needles and non-hygienic. There's nothing humane about having kids
Or animals.
and animals living in where people go to the bathroom and don't wash their hands. That we can do better.
and are just out of their minds.
Well,
They're
it's
walking
not.
up-
Some of them are. So,
Well,
you know.
I'm not saying
Yeah, I know what
100%.
you're saying. So some of them are. You know, you got to look at it the totality. If it's a person that just lost their job, got kicked out of their house, living in their car, that person we could probably help pretty
That's
quick.
in a different
Yes.
category.
Then you got the people that are the alcoholics or the addicts that can't get off the drugs, or alcohol, and so they're not functional, right? So they can't do their activities of daily living. Those people, if they're willing to get help,
Right.
they can
That's-
help them.
that's the
But when
issue.
they
Are they willing?
yes, so when they cleared out Beggs Lane, there was 131 people. You know, and they went to Waterfront Rescue. You know how many people stayed and got help? Four out of 131. So what we did is we created a part of Escambia County that turned into another landfill. It was a landfill now, and then the county's got to go in and clean all that up, you get to pay for it. We're using Public Works to clean all this up. That's not fair to the citizens of this county.
Why not put them on a chain gang and let them clean it up? They're the ones that messed
I-
it up. Make them clean it
I
up. Make
agree.
them.
If you're gonna
It's called restitution.
look, I'm a nurse. I'm sympathetic. I've been a nurse for 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sympathetic to people that want help,
Me
but
too.
I am not going to
Absolutely.
tolerate destruction in landfills in our county. I just don't think it's right.
It's complete disrespect and it's
Yeah.
disregard to everybody around you.
So when you look at the homeless situation, you got to look at it in multiple silos.
Sure,
And that's the
absolutely, yeah.
problem. It's not one size fits all. And unfortunately, that's
Exactly.
where we get cornered into sometimes. The people that we can help, we should try to help. That's the right thing to do.
Couldn't
The people
agree more.
that don't want help, we need to move on or figure out a way for them to, they just cannot destroy our
They
community.
need to be made.
Yeah, I
clean
agree.
it up.
So the sheriff on this issue, now that we did ordinances with the that somewhat mirrors what the city did, the Chip Simmons said he's going to enforce it. So I appreciate his willingness to work with the county, and we'll see where we end up. But it's going to create some tough times around here.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to have you back on again.
okay, are we
Soon.
done?
We're almost.
Oh wow,
We're getting there.
Man, that went quick.
I know, and look, I still have.
Yeah, I got about 20 more things I want to cover,
know.
Michelle.
Yeah, 20 more things at least. And there's more that's not on this list that I
Yeah.
want to cover. So, but I would like to have you back on, maybe sometime soon.
Sure,
But I'll
whenever.
get in touch with you on
Yep.
a side note. So, any last closing statement that you'd like to say?
I want the citizens to know that the commission, I believe, is working hard. We got a new commission, and we're committed to trying to improve and show the folks that we care about them. I think there's been some things in the press over the last year that's not looked favorable for the commission. We got a new commission. Give us a chance.
I believe you on that.
Yeah.
I believe you wholeheartedly that you care and you're the right guy for the position because you care. Like your heart is in there, you're lucid, your brain, you have good ideas and you're able to carry through with your ideas.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you are the guy in the position. So the Thornton Review is on the air to provide public service awareness and intellectual infrastructure to our community. This show is made possible by Ida Gates Godly Teas LLC, Alpha Fence Company, and our guest, Commissioner Mike Kohler, Escambia County Commission, District 2. It was great to have you on. We'll have you back on really soon. And we want to thank you for watching this episode of the Thornton Review. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.